As I said, I wanted to pick up here discussing the two final forms of resistance to colonialism that grow in the wake of World War I, Pan-Africanism and the Negritude movement. Pan-Africanism first really arose at the turn of the 20th century, largely from outside of Africa. Pan-Africanism posits the unity of all African people, both in their condition, the fact that African people across the planet, African people in Africa, those African people who are today in the Americas, and when I say Americas, I'm talking about Brazil, I'm talking about the Caribbean, I'm talking about parts of Central America and other parts of South America, that the condition of African people, wherever they are on the planet, is at the bottom of society. And that the fate or the destiny of those people, all those people, has to be linked. That it's not going to be possible, say, the Pan-Africanists, for a people of African origin in one place to improve their situation so long as the mass of African people are at the bottom of the world's social order everywhere else. In this early period of time, Pan-Africanism simply posited the unity of different African peoples, but in the wake of World War I, and here we see the Pan-African Congress convened in 1921 after World War I, the Pan-African Congress led, among others, by the African-American scholar who I've mentioned, W.E.B. Du Bois, calls for immediate steps toward the decolonization of Africa. Now, this is held in Paris in 1921, and there are representatives of a number of African colonies in attendance at this Pan-African Congress. The Negritude movement, also in this period of time, it was principally a cultural movement, began to make inroads amongst some of the African elites of French Africa. Foremost among the proponents of Negritude were the future presidents of Senegal, with the future president of Senegal, a man named Leopold Senghor, and the French West Indian, a man named Aimé Césaire. And Césaire, by the way, has a wonderful book, I wish I could have assigned it for this class, called Discourse on Colonialism. You get a chance, I think we've got it in our library here at UTM. If you get a chance, do pick up that book and take a look at it. A Discourse on Colonialism by Aimé Césaire. Wonderful book which really in-depth explains, it's a very short book, but in-depth explains colonialism's significance. Negritude, although later it would be characterized as too focused on culture, characterized by militant anti-colonialists, as too focused on culture and too focused on African identity, nevertheless sought to overturn the ideology of white supremacy and proclaim the value of black identity. Césaire, by the way, is also the teacher of Frantz Fanon, the author of the other main textbook that we have in this class. Césaire was a prolific poet and playwright, and in one of his pieces he wrote these words, which I think encapsulate his take. He's talking in one of these plays to a man named Prospero, and I think you will be able to figure out who Prospero is. Prospero, you are the master of illusion. Lying is your trademark, and you have lied so much to me, lied about the world, lied about me, that you have ended by imposing on me an image of myself. You have ended by imposing on me an image of myself. Very powerful and a deadly thing to have one's image of oneself imposed by another whose goal is your exploitation. If he can do that, he can convince you that his exploitation of you, his theft of your life, is legitimate. Underdeveloped, you brand me inferior. That is the way you have forced me to see myself. I detest that image. What's more, it's a lie. But now I know you, you old cancer, and I know myself as well, the negritude movement. Finally, the final consequence of World War I was that it left both the British, the victorious British, and the victorious French in a serious economic crisis. And naturally enough, it pushed these victorious powers to deeper and more extensive exploitation of their African colonies, which in turn enhance the appeal of African nationalism. I will return in the next with a discussion of Africa in the Depression and in World War II.